Here's the list of 170 towns in America in just the last few years have defeated Walmart and Home Depot. There's a rebellion taking place. In every one of these cases, of these Walmart battles, in every one of them, the people launched it through spontaneous combustion. It's not some national organization going around and instigating these things. People stand up on their own, and every time they think they're the first ones to have done it. They think they're alone. And often they say, well, I don't know if we can do it or not. But then they find that they can. And that's the power that the powers that be have, is to try to separate us. Contrary to the contrived conventional wisdom, there is a deep pool of progressive goodwill and values out in this great countryside. We heard from Bush and the Democrats, well, everybody wants a tax cut, so we're going to ram that thing on through. And then they did another one, and now they're doing another one. Everybody wants a tax cut, they say. Well, actually, 67% of the American people said they would prefer money to be spent on education and health care rather than on tax cuts. 67% of the American people. You take that issue of health care. And in Washington, what are they doing about health care? They say, oh, well, we're going to try to pass a prescription drug benefit for certain low-income seniors in certain situations, as long as the tax dollars go through the existing drug companies to the tune of $400 billion in corporate welfare for them. Well, hello. They said we can't talk about health care for everybody because that would scare the American people. 64% of the American people believe it is the federal government's responsibility to make sure that everybody has health care in America. 64%. I have been in politics. I have been elected twice to statewide office in the state of Texas. So I know a little bit about what goes on. And yet I look up now at my party. I was proud to have been elected as a Democrat on the old populist principles and fighting for the populist constituency, a great history of that party. But now I look up at my party leaders in Washington and I see that they've taken off the old Sears Roebuck work boots and strapped on the same Gucci's and Poochies that the Republicans drive around in. And they're taking money from exactly the same corporations that the Republicans do. And when you take those checks, written on the back is the corporate agenda. And the result is we don't have any party at a national level standing up for we, the people. Well, we pay a price when we don't have a politics that represents us. I'll give you an example of that price. What an opportunity we had after September 11th for the Democrats to lay on the table a plan for energy independence for America. An opportunity to say that we're going to have a 10-year moonshot-style program. And during that 10 years, we are going to take all of our very best scientists and we're going to lock them in a room and not let them out until they solve the few remaining technological problems to allow mass distribution of solar and wind power and geothermal and the other alternative energy sources. We'll have a program for energy independence that not only will we get to see it like we did the moonshot, but we will be the ones doing it. We will involve the American people directly in the process, directly in building our country and establishing something that has long-term economic benefit for we, the people. And we will achieve one other thing, and that is, after that 10 years, we will not need another drop of Iraqi oil, of Saudi oil, of Exxon oil, of Arctic oil, of anybody's oil. And we will never send our children to fight an oil war in this world again. This is a crucial time in our nation because the theft has been so huge. It's not just the theft of, they've taken some wages over here, some jobs out of the country, they're messing up the environment over there. It's the theft of the big idea of America. The notion that we're all in this together. There was a bumper sticker on a pickup truck I saw in Austin, Texas, my hometown, last year. This bumper sticker said, "Where are we going? And what am I doing in this handbasket?" Most people have a sense that something's gone terribly wrong. We're being led down some rabbit trail off the true path of America, which is the path toward egalitarianism, striving to have a society based on economic fairness, social justice, equal opportunity for all people, and sustainable economics. That's a vision that is worthy of us, yet that vision is being rendered asunder by the powers that be, who are pushing a new ethic of greed that says, I got mine, you get yours. Reach out to the broad community. They share our values. They share our desire to help build the country and to turn it back to that true path. They want exactly what we want. We worry too often about liberal and conservative. That's a very false dichotomy. The true political spectrum in this country is not right to left. The true spectrum is top to bottom. Right to left is theory. You're part of something big. You are part of something that is worthy of your very best efforts. I don't know what else you're doing in life that's more important than taking your democracy back, but this is a joyous fight. Taking back America, battling the bastards, that's as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. Let me tell you that. So let's get out there and get it on. Work for the people.
This great global transition to sustainability is absolutely inevitable. And I think most of us know that. I really thought this great transition was going to be in the 1980s because we knew everything about really what had to happen. We knew that all the constituencies were there. There were the people into solar energy, organic agriculture, clean food, fitness, every single sector, clean energy. And yet, we all know what happened during the 1980s. Reagan came into power, and he and Margaret Thatcher in the UK decided that they were going to buttress that old system. And of course, we had all of those industrial lobbies which were all determined to survive. This economics of unsustainability is still going around the world, as you know, and it's driven by this market fundamentalism, privatization, free trade, floating currencies, and opening up capital flows in countries, export-led growth. And all of this, as you know, is still pushed by the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, the Free Trade Area of the Americas. While our country is stuck, and a lot of US citizens are kind of in denial, the sustainability movement is going around the planet faster and faster. Like, for example, what's going on in Europe. I think the Europeans are now getting way ahead of us. More and more companies signing on, more countries signing on to the Kyoto protocols, more sustainable kind of investment practices, the huge shift to wind power in Europe. What we really have to look at is the fundamental problems of our economy, and you know very well what they are. The most urgent is energy dependence. The dependence on Middle East oil, which of course is driving our foreign policy and getting us into this enormous deficits. Even the White House admits the deficit will be somewhere about 500 billion, but if you talk to a lot of other people, they think it's going to be more like 800 billion to a trillion in the year 2004, the next year. So now we've got this global interdependence, you know, that this is what the globalizers wanted, right? They wanted to have this global capital markets and all of this. So now it's very karmic, because now we are totally dependent on those countries who've been taking our paper dollars to buy our treasury bills, or buy our land, or buy our property, or buy our securities. Because if they don't do that, we'll have a recession. And an enormous percentage now of U.S. Treasury securities are owned by, you know, the Saudis. They have about 600 billion worth of our treasuries. But the two big countries holding U.S. treasuries are Japan and China. The good news about all of this is that we have to shift into solar and renewable and sustainable technologies. And I can't think of any really tougher driver for doing that than to realize that if we don't, either our country's going to end up being owned by all the rest of the world, or else we're going to have